old house, but somebody's taken very good care of.
Boy, is that neat.
Who remembers what it's called?
A Victorian. Queen Anne Victorian.
Good. Queen Anne Victorians were built in about 1890, and they're always full of ornament and lots of different shapes.
Are we going to draw that? That was pretty complicated to draw.
Well, if you're not comfortable with this house, let's look around and see if there's something else that's interesting to you.
Boy, that one over there sure is pretty.
You mean the yellow one?
Oh, yeah, that's neat. I'd like to draw that one.
Remember, when you start drawing, it's not as important how the drawing comes out as that you learn how to see by doing the drawing. First, we'll start with the basic shape of the house. It's probably a long, thin rectangle. Then we add the roof on top of the house.
I'm not too good at drawing.
It's not really an art lesson. It's to learn the structure and details of houses.
I always thought old houses like these were just dumps. I never noticed all these details before. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like a portico. That's an entranceway or porch covered by a separate roof. And a balustrade. Oops, that's spelled wrong. It's a handrail, like on a porch or a staircase. Columns. They're for holding up roofs and things. Lots of houses have gables. That's where the end of a roof forms a triangle.
It sure is a fancy one. How am I gonna ever draw that?
Fancy shingles that look like these are easy to remember. They're called fish scale shingles. Sunburst. It's a decoration that looks like the sun. And this is a bay window. You can tell them because they stick out from the side of a house.
You know what this thing here is?
You mean that pointy thing up there?
Yeah. It's a finial.
A what?
A finial.
You know, once you start noticing them, there are a lot of different kinds of roofs. That's called a witch's cap. Yeah. Roofs with gables, sometimes even more than one. A hipped roof. That's where all four sides of a roof plant in, like a pyramid. There certainly are a lot of different shapes and designs.
And windows. There's a million different kinds of windows.
The entryway is the way the house says welcome to the world. What do you think about that front door?
That one seems to say welcome in a very fancy and frilly sort of way. Stiff, proper, super rich.
Palatial. What's that mean?
I'll tell you later.
I'd like to show you a little bit about this house. My family's lived in this neighborhood for a long time, and this used to be a really run-down block. But over the last few years, we've seen a lot of things like this with the scaffolding going up. People are beginning to discover and start to take care of these old houses. This one was built in the 1880s, so it's almost 100 years old. But, you know, if they take care of it, it ought to last at least another century.
What are all these things outside of the house?
Oh, that's scaffolding, and they put that up on the building so that they can crawl up and paint it.
Oh.
Now, here's a real mystery. Look at these two houses. They really look different, don't they? But look close. The bay windows and the roof lines show you that they were alike when they were first built in 1875. But a later owner must have decided that the house on the right cost too much to take care of. Can you see what he did? Look at the window on the right. It used to have decorations like the house on the left. And now look up in the cornice. That's the main roof line. You can see the original design with brackets and other details. But look, they were removed from the house on the right. And then it was covered with asbestos shingles. Here's a mystery you can solve just by looking up. This actually is a Victorian house, but if you look on the ground floor, you can see how they modernized it. If you look up, look at that second floor. See there the big bay windows jutting out, and look at some of the detail. There on the edge of the bay windows are colonnettes, those small columns. painted white up.
Boy, it must take a long time to paint fancy things like that.
Kinds of things that are make this block so much fun. Okay, let's go down along the block a little bit more. Some of my favorite details are up in the top roof line of that building. See the big bay windows that stick out? Up at the top are those things that look like front teeth. Those are really easy to remember. They're called dentals.
I took pictures of some of the details we talked about, like egg and dart. See the egg here and the dart? Once you start noticing this, you'll see it in a lot of places. This is called a garland. It's just for decoration. Uh-oh, this shouldn't be here. This is a fancy capital. It sits on top of a column.
This is a real one, and there are only a few left. The first thing I want to see is if any of you can tell me what this is.
A horse. To tie the horse.
Exactly. I like it because it's a real reminder of the old days before people had private automobiles. Everybody used to hitch their horses up. Imagine what this street would have looked like in the old days. You would have heard wagons going by. You would have seen horses tied up to different kinds of hitching rings. Once you start learning about the details of houses, you'll see that they begin to fit into categories that we call style. This house is an Italianate. It was tall and narrow, and a false front hides its peaked roof. This is a Queen Anne house built in the 1890s. They have corner towers with witches' caps, gables, and a lot of plaster decoration. Around 1900, a lot of houses like this were built here. It's got a boxy shape and simple classical detail. It also has a hipped roof with a dormer window, and it peeks out at you just like an eye. In the early 1900s, it was popular to cover the whole house with shingles. They called this the shingle style. They were supposed to provide a natural look. Bungalows were common in the 1920s. They're usually single-story homes with big pillars that support the front porch. There are lots of variations. This kind of house was built in the 1920s and the 1930s. It's called the Prairie School style. The design is rectangular, and it's got a flat roof with a large overhang. You can see ranch-style homes like these in many places. They were first built in the 1940s after World War II, usually out in the suburbs.
So by knowing the style of a house, you can tell when it was built. But what about apartment buildings?
They did build apartment houses all along, too. You can tell the age of your apartment by looking closely at the building and looking for some of the same details. Sometimes you don't have to guess about the age. Sometimes the date of the building is right on the front of it in a cornerstone or on a plaque. This used to be a whole block of old houses. The others were replaced by newer apartments. Old buildings are still being torn down even today. But, you know, we're lucky because more and more people are finding ways to save older buildings.
Boy, look at this detail. This is really neat.
Yes, and can you imagine? Just a few years ago, they were trying to tear down old buildings like this.
Why?
Well, I guess people didn't realize the true value of such building as this. One of my jobs with the city is to coordinate the kind of activities that are required to save such old buildings, such as this whole block over here. Fortunately, we've come to realize the meaning of such old buildings. Their meaning to people, to the city as a whole, and they're sort of a history book to the past.
This is the original wood. Wallpaper, another layer of wallpaper, another layer of wallpaper, more paint. It's almost 80 years of history, layer after layer.
The last few years, we've seen a change in attitudes. A lot of people are choosing to fix things up, restoring and conserving them instead of throwing them away. We try and reuse valuable house parts like these double-hung windows. They slide up and down in the frame, and they're pretty hard to replace, so we'll repair them whenever we can.
What I'm doing, I'm taking these redwood strips, which are called wainscoting, and we're just nailing them up to the wall here like this.
Is that covered up?
Yeah, that looks good.
Okay. How you doing, Andrew?
We saw a lot of families fixing up their houses.
Make sure you go up and down with the grain. Okay.
Boy, everybody gets into the act.
There you go.
It's fun making old places look better. You're always discovering things.
Pineal, premial,
Pimenal.
finial.